How enjoyable was this day for you?
Well, it's a great thing, and it's great that these guys are old because I'm very redundant when I speak to them. I already told them all these stories last year, but they've forgotten them, so they're laughing all over again. But no, it's so much fun playing with these two guys.
How good was Lee Trevino? So good that when PGA legends Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player were asked to describe him, both men found themselves on microphones having no choice but to give him real respect. The thumbnail image you clicked might have shown them both sitting there trying to explain what made the guy special. Well, this is that story. In the late 1960s, professional golf was a carefully designed world. It was polished, predictable, exclusive. Arnold Palmer had brought the game to regular people, Jack Nicklaus represented pure perfection, and Gary Player was the international champion. The PGA Tour operated like a country club, with its own rules, its own style, its own way of doing things. For decades, this order held firm. Then Lee Trevino showed up. Trevino was different from day one. He was born into poverty in Texas, raised in a shack without plumbing, and spent his early years playing golf on municipal courses, hustling money in gambling matches. While the elite pros learned from textbooks and video analysis, Trevino learned because he needed to eat. He played using a taped-up Dr. Pepper bottle as a club when he was young. When he joined the Marines at 17, that military discipline finally channeled his raw talent into something focused. His swing looked nothing like what the sophisticated golfers of that era had. It was flat, repetitive, open-stanced. To a classical eye trained on the beautiful swings of the time, it looked more like a reaping motion than golf. But it worked. It worked so well that even the harshest critics had to rethink everything they believed about the game. Dave Hill was a critic by nature. He was known for his brutal honesty, for saying things other golfers would never say publicly. He criticized courses he didn't like, players he thought were soft. But when Hill talked about Trevino, his tone completely changed. Hill said something remarkable. He called Trevino the only self-taught player who could outthink the most sophisticated professionals in the game. Think about that statement. By the late 1960s, the self-taught golfer was almost extinct. Players came through college programs, learned from established instructors, understood swing plane theory and biomechanics. The game was being standardized, professionalized, taught through manuals and high-speed film. Trevino had none of that, but Hill recognized something crucial. Trevino's mind was not cluttered with the mechanical checkpoints that paralyze other players under pressure. When Trevino looked at a golf ball, he did not review a mental checklist of body positions. He visualized the shot with the clarity of a man who had played for survival. Hill also identified something technical that became Trevino's signature. He was the genius of the low fade shot. A fade is a controlled shot, one that lands softer and rolls less than a draw. Trevino took this to an extreme. He aimed his body 30 to 40 degrees left of target. From that position, he took the club back outside the target line and blocked the face through impact, holding the club face square while his path cut across it. This produced a low fade trajectory that was incredibly difficult to execute. Trevino's genius was his ability to de-loft the club while maintaining that open face relative to his path. He famously said, "You can talk to a fade, but a hook will not listen." That joke reveals his actual genius. By eliminating the left side of the course entirely, Trevino removed an entire variable from the equation. Other players fought against hook or slice. Trevino only had one. If you have watched this channel before, you know we love when the legends show their respect. So right now, give this video some hype. Tap that hype button and let us know you are with us on this journey through greatness. Tom Watson approached golf as a scholar. He was an 8-time major winner, a Stanford graduate who studied the game's lineage like a historian. Watson's observations are important because he was an intellectual analyzing a rival with forensic precision. Watson made one statement that became the definitive description of Trevino's mechanical advantage. He said most players have pretty swings that break under pressure, but Lee's swing is bulletproof. What does that actually mean? In high-pressure moments, in the final holes of a major championship, physiological changes happen to an athlete. Adrenaline spikes, fine motor skills degrade, tempo accelerates. The pretty swings Watson mentioned, those long flowing arcs and rhythmic motions like Tom Weiskopf or Gene Littler had, they were vulnerable to these changes. If the timing of the hip turn slipped by a fraction of a second, the club face would shut and you would get a snap hook. Trevino's swing worked completely differently. It relied on large muscles, the back and legs, not small muscles of the hands and wrists. By aiming left and shoving the club toward the target, Trevino removed removed the need for intricate timing of the release. He held the release off. Under pressure, he could simply swing harder without any fear of the club face turning over. The harder he swung, the more the ball would fade, but it would never go left. In the crucible of a major championship, that mechanical simplicity was a superpower. Watson also recognized something psychological that made Trevino different. He noted that Trevino was one of the few who could talk his way around a course while staying totally focused. Professional golf is traditionally a silent game. We think of concentration as introversion, complete focus with no external noise. Trevino destroyed this idea. He was a constant stream of verbal energy, talking to caddies, engaging fans, telling jokes to opponents. For most players, talking is a distraction that breaks the connection to what they call the zone. For Trevino, Watson realized, talking was actually the connection. Trevino used conversation as a pressure release valve. The silence of a major championship can be deafening. Doubt creeps in during that silence. By talking, Trevino kept his conscious mind occupied with something other than fear, preventing it from interfering with his subconscious execution. He would tell a joke, laugh, and then step to the ball and strike it with complete commitment. Watson admired his ability to toggle between entertainer and assassin. While other players exhausted themselves maintaining 4 hours of unbroken focus, Trevino relaxed between shots and focused only for the 10 seconds when he needed to execute. Gary Player was the Black Knight from South Africa. He had fought to earn his place on the world stage, traveling the globe against odds far greater than most players faced. Like Trevino, Player was an outsider. Palmer and Nicklaus came from stable, middle-class American backgrounds. Player and Trevino had to fight from the margins. This shared experience created a bond between them. Player's respect for Trevino was built on work ethic and what he called clutch performance. Player said Lee Trevino is one of the greatest clutch putters he had ever seen. Now, Trevino is famous for his ball striking, but you cannot win 6 major championships without being elite with the putter. A clutch putter is not necessarily the best putter statistically. A clutch putter makes the putt when the tournament is on the line. Trevino used a wide open stance, mirroring his full swing, and a pop stroke. Unlike the modern pendulum stroke that relies on shoulder rock, the pop stroke is a decisive hit. On the slow, grainy greens of the 1970s, this stroke was incredibly effective. Player recognized in Trevino a fellow grinder, a range rat hitting balls until dark. Player, who practiced until his hands bled, saw his own determination in Trevino. Player also noted that Trevino brought humor to a sport that had become too serious. The Big Three era was intense. Nicklaus was cold. Hogan's influence lingered with silent focus. Trevino brought levity, but Player understood this was sophisticated strategy. It is hard to dislike a man making you laugh. By lowering the temperature of his group, Trevino lulled opponents into comfort before dismantling them. Arnold Palmer is credited with saving professional golf, bringing it from the back pages to television screens. His fan base, Arnie's Army, consisted of working-class people who identified with his aggressive style. As Palmer aged, he saw his spiritual successor not in Nicklaus but in Trevino. Palmer said, "I love Lee because he is a man of the people. He made golf fun for the average fan." Palmer recognized something in Trevino that could not be easily taught. Nicklaus was respected. Trevino was loved. He interacted with galleries, drank fan sodas, made bets with spectators. Palmer, who prided himself on looking every fan in the eye, saw Trevino as the custodian of golf's approachability. Palmer also respected that Trevino never changed his personality or his Texas swagger for anyone on the tour. This phrase carries weight. The 1960s were turbulent. The golf establishment was notoriously exclusive. Trevino was Mexican-American, had a thick accent, came from an unorthodox background, and refused to polish his edges to fit the country club mold. Palmer had his own battles with the establishment regarding his unconventional swing and blue-collar roots. He admired Trevino's authenticity. Trevino did not speak like a diplomat. He spoke like a hustler. He did not dress like a banker. He wore bright colors and his trademark cap. Palmer believed the character of the man mattered more than pedigree. The bond was evident at Palmer's memorial service, where Trevino was a featured guest. They were the two great populists of the game. But the ultimate validation came from Jack Nicklaus, the greatest golfer of the entire 20th century. Nicklaus was an intimidating force. He usually won tournaments before teeing off because opponents were terrified of him, except for Lee Trevino. Nicklaus made an admission that stunned the golf world. He said, "Lee Trevino is the one player who truly got inside my head. This is staggering." Nicklaus was famous for his mental strength, his iron will. Yet Trevino beat him at the 1971 U.S. Open in a playoff. He denied Nicklaus the Grand Slam by winning the 1972 Open Championship. He beat him again at the 1974 PGA Championship. In Nicklaus's prime, Trevino was the thorn in his paw. How did Trevino get inside the mind of an opponent most players could not even challenge? He did it by refusing to revere Nicklaus. At the 1971 U.S. Open playoff at Marion, on the first tee, Trevino pulled a rubber snake from his bag and tossed it at Nicklaus. The gallery gasped. Nicklaus laughed. In that moment, the dynamic shifted. Trevino showed he was loose, unafraid, and ready to play. He was not playing Jack Nicklaus, the legend. He was playing Jack, the guy he could beat. Nicklaus continued his praise by saying something remarkable. If he had to have someone hit a shot for his life, he might pick Lee. He is a pure artist of the game. Nicklaus saw himself as a scientist. In Trevino, he saw an artist who manipulated the ball with feel and imagination. Trevino could hit it high or low, left or right, chip it, putt it. He had a creative relationship with impact. Nicklaus understood something crucial. Trevino's ball striking was superior in adverse conditions. Trevino's low ball flight bored through the wind at the Open Championship. Nicklaus's high ball was at the mercy of the gales. Nicklaus never made excuses for his losses to Trevino. He acknowledged that Trevino simply outplayed him on those big occasions. This rivalry was unique because it was a clash of styles, the high-flying power of Nicklaus versus the low-burning precision of Trevino. What emerges from listening to Hill, Watson, Player, Palmer, and Nicklaus is a composite picture of a remarkable man. Mechanically, he was a savant. Hill and Watson identified the low fade and bulletproof nature of his swing as mechanical advantages. Psychologically, he was a fortress. Watson and Nicklaus marveled at his ability to compartmentalize pressure through chatter and humor. Sociologically, he was a bridge connecting the struggles of common people with the adulation of galleries. The legend's words are not just anecdotes or casual observations. They are validated by cold, hard statistics. In 1971, Trevino won the U.S. Open, the Canadian Open, and the Open Championship in a span of 20 days. This feat of endurance and consistency validates Watson's bulletproof claim. Trevino is one of the very few players to have a winning record against Nicklaus. In the modern era of launch monitors and biomechanical coaching, Trevino looms even larger. A swing aimed 40 degrees left with a flat backswing and helicopter finish would be immediately corrected by a swing coach before a young player even reached high school. The collective testimony of these five legends suggests golf lost something vital when it moved away from the dig it out of the dirt mentality. Trevino represented the absolute pinnacle of field golf, where a player owns their swing entirely because they personally built it themselves from scratch. Lee Trevino forced the aristocracy of golf to open its gates. He did not ask politely or conform to their standards. He did it by hitting the ball so purely, so consistently, and so artistically that the greatest players in history had no choice but to welcome him into the pantheon. Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, Tom Watson, Arnold Palmer, and Dave Hill stood as witnesses to his extraordinary genius. They spoke with one unified voice about Trevino. He was the bulletproof jester who outthought them all. He was the mechanic, the mind, and the personality. He was the man who proved that greatness cannot be polished or planned. Sometimes greatness simply arrives refusing to apologize for being exactly who it is. If you loved this story about Lee Trevino and how the legend saw him, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below with your favorite Trevino moment or the greatest pressure player in golf history. His legacy continues to inspire athletes worldwide who refuse to accept the limits placed on them by others. Trevino's story challenges everything we think we know about excellence in sport. He won because he had the mind of a hustler inside a champion's body. He understood that golf is about who wants it more, who can stay loose under pressure, who can laugh while executing perfectly. The five legends who spoke about him were not being generous. Nicklaus does not pay compliments, he does not believe. Watson does not admire players who are not great. Player does not respect those who do not share his work ethic. Palmer does not embrace the inauthentic. Hill does not concede intellectual superiority lightly. These were men of precision and integrity in all their assessments of greatness. They recognized in Trevino a player who could do something almost no one else in professional golf could ever do. He could win when it mattered most. He could keep his nerve when others crumbled. He could make people smile while dismantling them on the golf course. That is why these legends spoke about him with such respect and reverence. Thank you for watching.